Joining me is the panel, Michael Kroger, former Victorian Liberal President, and Steve Conroy, back for the first time after spending valuable weeks in Donald Trump's new America. Steve, I'll get to that in a second because I'm kind of waiting to see some road to Damascus epiphany. But this result, should Labor now put the Greens last? No more helping this evil party, let me stress, evil party get elected.
Well, firstly, congratulations to Tony Lupton for the role he played in helping defeat the Green candidate on the weekend. He showed a lot of courage. The Labor Party made a decision to not contest, so anybody, former or current member of the Labor Party, could run. And Tony stood on his values. He got a significant core chunk of the vote, and he directed it to the Liberal Party as a total repudiation of the anti-Semitic Greens, particularly here in Victoria. I mean, the continual rolling protests, the intimidation, the attacks, attempts at fire bombings, this has to stop. And I hope that everybody gets the message from the courage of Tony Lupton that the sort of...
Well said, but should the Labor put the Greens last?
Well, that's a decision that ultimately will be made by the ALP National Executive. I would think that...
I know it will,
my
but
best
what do
guess
you
is
think?
there wouldn't be a uniform position across the country. Here in Victoria, I would think that in a seat like Macnamara, it would be political suicide for the Labor. Josh Burns, a good strong member of the Jewish community, it would be electoral suicide if he was to advocate a second preference. So I think there'll be a different position in different seats.
Okay.
And the more that Labor doesn't preference Greens, the better that will be.
Okay, so Michael, you heard there, according to Steve, you should deal with the devil if it helps you, but not deal with the devil if it doesn't. Is that good enough?
Well, it's worse than that. It's worse than that. Macnamara is the old Melbourne ports, as we know, down the Bayside here in Melbourne, near Albert Park, etc., South Melbourne. So effectively that would be, because there's a lot of Jews in Macnamara, we'll give you a SOP. We'll give you a SOP. Well, we're not going to advocate voting Green because you're all Jewish here. But in all the other seats, we are going to. I mean, Labor shouldn't treat the Jewish community like mugs. I mean, the truth of the matter is, Tony Lupton is a Bob Hawke Labor man, right? He's a Bob Hawke Labor man. He's not a Jeremy Corbyn Labor man from a UK. And he objected to what Labor's doing. I can tell you in 7 or 8 years' time, when the cycles change back again, they're going to thank Lupton for extracting the Labor Party from the jaws of Albanese, Wong and these extremists and their relationship with the Greens. And they'll thank Lupton for bringing Labor back to the Steve Bracks, Bob Hawke, Paul Keating sensible centre of Labor Party politics. But of course they should put the Greens last. As Dutton says, the Greens are going last in every seat on the Liberal preferences. You look at a seat like Griffiths in Queensland. Now, Chandler Mather got 34.6% of the vote, Andrew, at the 2022 election. He got elected. This bloke, Chandler Mather, got elected on Labor preferences. So is Albo going to give him preferences because Labor will come third? Are they going to get Chandler Mather elected again, the bloke that spoke at the CFMEU rallies, etc., or are they going to put someone more moderate in, like the Liberal candidate? So Albanese's got this challenge. And by the way, everyone knows... Stephen says the federal executive, that's right. As I understand it, the federal executive of the Labor Party is 10 left-wing, 10 right-wing and Albanese. There's 21 members. So as far as I can add up, that means Albanese is a swing vote. This is Albanese's decision. He's got to come out and explain to people, are the Labor Party still the party of Bob Hawke? Because you know what Bob Hawke would do, right? You would know what Hawke would do in a situation like this. He would put the Greens last and he would have endorsed Lupton and he would have agreed with Lupton and he would have said Lupton is absolutely right to put the Greens 11th out of 11 in Prahran, which is what Lupton did.
We also know what John Howard would do. For right or wrong, he put the One Nation Party last. So there is a precedent for this, and let's see if Albanese has the courage to do it. There's another way this election is a warning for Labor, I think, Stephen. Put me right here if you don't agree. Crime is really a state issue. I've got that. Crime is a state issue. But a Resolve poll from last year already was showing that crime was now 5th in the list of issues which worried voters, above even climate change. I would think it would have got worse, because I think for the federal government, you've got these very angry anti-Jewish and anti-Israel protests that seem to bleed into this issue to make crime a federal issue as well. How do you see it?
No, I think that's a fair call. Andrew, you've got a circumstance where the Queensland government, and they've admitted it themselves after they lost, the former Premier Stephen Miles said, look, we did not move fast enough. I mean, to Jacinta Allan's credit, she started talking about the bail laws last week, and now she's got to carry that through. And we need to, as a Victorian state Labor government, we need to be seen to be doing more to deal with these on-the-ground issues, and you've just highlighted some of them. Otherwise, Jacinta Allan and Ben Carroll will be standing there staring 2 years down the track saying, well, perhaps we should have done something a bit more about that crime and law and order. Law and order is not a Liberal Party issue. Law and order is about protecting ordinary people from crimes that take their property, threaten their lives. This shouldn't be allowed to be a Liberal mantra that we're the party of law and order. There is nothing embarrassing for the Labor Party to want to look after citizens in the streets so they can go about their business without the sort of threats and intimidation that you showed just a few clips there a little earlier.
I mean, it's a shocker what's going on. I feel our society is being changed into unrecognisable ways. It's just incredible. Michael, Jacinta Price on Wednesday will be, it's just quite extraordinary. She's just been there for not even one term, and she's already a key frontbencher, and now she's released her biography called, autobiography called Matters of the Heart, or memoirs, whatever you want to call it. There were stories about her on Saturday. There's a lot of secrecy about this book, but the big meaty bit of it is that she was in a very low spot. She claims she was a victim of some domestic abuse by a former partner or whatever. It was very difficult. It was in a spiral, and she took drugs, MDMA and things like that. I thought it was interesting. I was wondering whether she'd done this to get ahead of this story coming out in other ways. Is this going to damage her?
No, Andrew, quite the opposite. A lot of young people in this country, particularly people in the Aboriginal community, have suffered extraordinary adversity in their youth for a whole host of reasons. And this woman, who is a great Australian, has overcome the most extraordinary adversity, including all the deaths in and around her family, domestic violence, etc. She is, a symbol of what can be done by people who recover from extraordinary adversity. I mean, she is a shining example of how through personal discipline, through hard work, dedication, a belief system and a strong family unit around her, as to what you can achieve as an individual. And no, far from harming her, people are going to look at her and say, you're an absolute rock star. You are a hero. What you've overcome to become a senior member of the opposition in this Australian Parliament, no, people are going to say good on you. They're going to say, what an outstanding woman to recover from such adversity and reach such heights, Andrew.
Stephen, would you also give it credit for overcoming adversity and really sticking to it?
No, look, absolutely. I mean, I've only read a few excerpts that have been in the paper, so I haven't had a chance, obviously, to see the book. But given what she's described, it is a credit to her that she's continued to put one foot in front of the other and built herself up into a significant figure in the political world, and she deserves credit for that. The only thing I would say is hopefully she's been fully frank and honest. We've had for other former politicians who've wanted to talk about their tough luck when they were growing up, and then down the track they've perhaps not necessarily painted the full picture. So I just hope when we see the the book in full, it paints the full picture, because it does sound terrible, the circumstances that she's been through.